things that scare you because they really push you to explore your boundaries. Those are the words of a CEO, entrepreneur, and aerospace engineer. Talking business and outer space with Aisha Bowe. You're in the Enterprise Zone at the Nasdaq. Hello, everyone. This is Jabari Young, senior writer at Forbes, and you're in the Enterprise Zone at the Nasdaq MarketSite. And I have a special guest here. Her name is Aisha Bowe. She is the CEO and founder of STEMBoard, IT consultancy firm, U.S. Department State STEM speaker, and one of the 6 women who traveled to outer space on Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin rocket. Aisha, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. It's the first time I'm talking to somebody from outer space, or that traveled there at least. Yeah.
Thank you for having me, Jabari.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, we're here. It's your first time at the Nasdaq?
Yes.
This is your first time. I love it.
It is.
I love it. I always ask people when you first step in, give me a stock. What is something that Aisha Bowe is looking at that's worked for her over the years, or that you may buy, or you can buy me as a Christmas gift, because Christmas is coming up. What's the stock?
Listen, this is probably really on brand for me, but I always like to look at infrastructure. Technology stocks that are foundational, that are going to be there long after the headlines or some of the hype fades.
Yeah.
In the pandemic, I did really well with Moderna.
Moderna?
Yes.
Right.
That was like my thing, right?
Yeah.
I was in my house checking the stock every single day.
Yeah.
These days, I'm really invested in Eli Lilly. I love NVIDIA. I mean, NVIDIA.
That's right.
But I also think that Amazon, Tesla, I think those were always a good bet as well.
Yeah, you have to do Amazon. I mean, after all, you traveled on Jeff Bezos' rocket, right? You have to do Amazon. Well, listen, here we're in 2025, ready to go over to 2026. What has been that soundtrack? What's been the music that's been keeping Aisha Bowe motivated and creative throughout this year and heading into 2026? What's been that soundtrack?
Wow.
Brandy, Monica, everybody going to their concert now.
Listen, I have to get on the tour.
Yeah.
I really want to see the tour. But I think for me, it's a mixture of different things, right? I like to, I'm famous for putting on some R&B oldies, getting a glass of wine, and reading my email.
Ooh.
I like to do my work, but I like to make it romantic. And so it's a mixture of the old and the new.
Yeah.
And I also like to think about that in terms of my life, right?
Yeah.
I'm borrowing from pathways that other people have blazed before me, but also putting my new spin on it.
Yeah, so you'll have, you answer emails over a nice fireplace, some wine, and maybe some Sade, Anita Baker going, right?
Yes.
Maybe some H-Town, something like that going out there too.
Sometimes you gotta slow it down.
That's right, absolutely. Like it slow, like H-Town said, they like it slow. I love that. You walk into a 5th grade class and they say, maybe they've never heard of you. They say, what is it that you do, Miss Bowe? What do you tell them? Hey, I travel to outer space. So how do you tell this 5th grade class?
I chuckle first and then I tell them a little bit of everything. And then I step back and I say, my goal is to do what I think is impossible. I do what my wildest dreams are every 5 to 6 years.
I love that. Do what your wildest dreams are every 5 to 6 years. You have a wild dream coming up now, so you enter the back half of the day.
Listen, my goal is to be a billionaire. That's my wild dream.
You want to be a billionaire?
I would love to be a billionaire.
Really?
Yeah.
Some people always look down on billionaires, though. They always you have people walking around saying, no, you shouldn't be a billionaire. And I'm thinking, we live in a capitalist society. Why not?
Listen, my thing is, it's not the money, it's what you choose to do with it. Because of the investments I've made in technology, and let's talk about infrastructure. I started as a community college student that went to Michigan, that studied aerospace, that worked at NASA.
That's right.
I went back and I created an endowment at my community college. And in the next 20 to 30 years, I hope to be one of the largest providers of a free 2-year technical degree where you can then transition to a 4-year school.
Wow.
And so for me, the money was really a vehicle for me to do good in my community.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. We have something in common, too, because I, too, started at a community college, and I'll definitely dive into that in a little bit. But I want to recap, your amazing journey to outer space. In April, of course, you joined all-female crew, right? The first time that an all-female crew has traveled to outer space is 1963, I believe.
Yeah.
And 30 years since Mae Jemison became the first Black woman to do it. What was that journey, right? Going into outer space, getting in Blue Origin, and heading up there and passing the Kármán line. What was that like for you?
The journey started long before the flight.
That's right.
One of the things that I'm proud to share is that I'm the first Black woman to raise the money to fund her own seat. And so what I really started to say was, how can I use what I learned by being an entrepreneur, by running a successful gov contracting company, by raising a couple million for my educational startup, and apply that to space? And by doing that, I was able to say, I'm going to train. So I trained for 3 years.
That's right.
I've flown fighter jets. I've trained at the only human-rated centrifuge in North America that's trained over 500 astronauts. And I had the opportunity to conduct world-class science with institutions. One of the things that we did on the flight was we partnered with Winston-Salem, which is an HBCU, and the Brazilian Space Agency to genetically sequence crop plants. And we introduced new technology from a company called Bioserve in Colorado and flight qualified their hardware. So there's so much there that's a whole tie-in between my legacy, my experience having worked at NASA, and what it is that I'm hoping to inspire people to do in science in the future.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, you mentioned on a previous interview that there was the financial preparation that you had to get, right? Because you knew about this journey, what, 2 years, 3 years ago, and you were preparing. What was the financial element of it? Like, how much did you have to raise? Because I know you were going around and asking people, hey, are you going to help me take this journey? And as you mentioned, you got to pay for all of that training that you have to do. It's not an as easy task. What was the financial part of it?
So what was really interesting to me was having the opportunity to own the story. When I was working at NASA, I was inspired by so many people who were in the field, but they may not have had the ability to tell the story they wanted to tell it at the time. And so what I sat down to do was say, who are the parties that I could go to and make the business case for space? I mean, space is a $1 trillion industry projected in the not too distant future. So how do we get more people excited about it? And I mean all people from all walks of life. I think we have to put it out there and make it not only accessible, but exciting and fun. And so I went out to companies that had supported me on my STEM journey and I said, hey, look, there's gonna be a mission. It's gonna happen sometime in the next 2 to 3 years, and it's gonna be unlike anything that's been done before. Will you back me? And they said yes. And so we saw companies that were, saying, hey, Aisha's gonna be our STEM ambassador, or even, hey, there was a segment there where we had to get ready with me with Fenty as we were headed out to the L shoot, which is amazing, right? To be able to say, we're gonna take science, space, and beauty and put it on the same level as culture.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because, you had mentioned after the mission, right? The backlash, and I'll dive into that in a minute, but while you're on that journey, right? So you get in, right? You get in a rocket, you buckle up, you put your seatbelts on, obviously, you got all these warning signs, and then you hear the engine starts, right? And you're going up. What's the feeling like? What are you thinking as you are going up and being flying, getting into that Carmeline past it? Like, what are you thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, I was ready.
Yeah.
All the things in my life that I thought were setbacks were really a setup for a comeback. And so as the engine started and I started to see the flames fill the trench, I really had this profound sense of calm because
You were calm going to space?
I was calm.
How?
I was really calm. I mean, well, first of all, you actually have to pay attention and read all the indicators and know what you have to do. I also was conducting science, and so I needed to make sure that I was aware and alert and could make sure my experiment went well, because there's no way that I was going to get all the way up there and my experiment was going to go well, right? Like, we had to make sure that that was locked up. But I also just had this overwhelming sense of this is supposed to be. Everything that's occurred in my life has been so wildly improbable that I really wanted to lean in and enjoy the moment.
Yeah. So you're calm. I don't know how you did it, but you're calm as you're going up in space, right? I'm nervous when I got on an airplane, right? I'm going up in the airplane, but you're calm. What about the fall down? Because you mentioned about how you have to get used to the drop. And I love roller coasters until you got to hit that drop. Now I'm thinking that you're experiencing a drop like no other, right? Falling thousands and thousands of miles. But what is that feeling like when you're dropping down? Is your stomach going up in your chest? Like, how are you feeling?
I think the best way to describe it is an intense pressure. One of the things that they prepare you for at the NASA facility, which is the centrifuge I trained at, was about 6 Gs. So think about 6 times your body weight on every inch of your body, and being able to make sure that you keep enough pressure, like kind of inside, so that you don't lose consciousness or pass out.
Yeah. So were you calm coming down too?
I was practicing the techniques that I learned.
You wasn't as calm coming down. I like that.
Listen, deep breathing.
But again, getting back into the backlash part, I was surprised by that. You had mentioned that there was backlash about the trip. I don't know if it was all female or whatever, but you still see that, or was it just immediately afterwards, but now it's kind of calmed down? Because again, it was a historic trip.
I think what's really interesting is oftentimes when you're blazing trail, it can take the public a little while to catch up. And this happens with a lot of events in history where the people who are doing the thing at the time may not be welcomed, but history remembers them favorably.
Yeah.
I think for us, a lot of folks were kind of like, well, wait a second, how did this come together? But I'm really grateful for the ladies who lent their time and their energy, and anybody who's willing to strap themselves into a controlled explosion at 2,200 miles an hour deserves our respect.
Yeah.
But the reception afterwards has been really incredible because we've started to really look at, well, who gets to fly and how do they get to fly and why do they get to fly? And more importantly, what things can be done when they fly. And one of the things that I love the most is I'll be walking through the airport or even in my neighborhood, and there are all these middle school students and high school students who will just be waving at me. And it's really exciting because they say, because you did that, I know that I can do it too.
Take me inside of the business, right? STEMBoard. This is an IT consultancy firm, and you're obviously trying to solve a problem, right? A lot of IT consultancy firms out there. What problem is STEMBoard trying to solve?
STEMBoard is really interested in a number of unique problems. And I say it that way because we are a cleared defense firm. We've been in operation for 13 years. We've received numerous awards, whether it's the Department of Defense Nunn-Perry Award for Excellence in Small Business Subcontracting or being on the Inc. 5000 list twice. We support a number of clients, and we're really focused on data science and data analytics, making sure that people have actionable intelligence. And we do a lot in artificial intelligence and AI right now, which I find to be very, very exciting.
Yeah. What data are you capturing?
Ooh, now listen, I can't tell you that.
Well, if you're living investors listening to this and they may be interested in working with you, what do you tell them? How do you pitch STEMBoard?
Right now, we are predominantly working with government clients, but what I find is that the rigor of the approach, we have multiple ISO certifications, we're a CMMI level 3, we're a CMMC, all the things that we do in order to be able to deliver solutions effectively to our government clients are the same solutions that make us great for transitioning to commercial markets.
All right, and so again, STEMBoard, you walk into and you're working with government clients, but on the back end, again, IT consultancy, that it's a big range there, right? What are you exactly focusing on when you're talking about
We're
IT?
now exclusively government. So we do enterprise IT for the government, everything vanilla from Active Directory to managing patching and updates to doing things that are more elegant.
Yeah. Do you have any competitors that you're competing against right now?
It's kind of interesting that you say that because as we've started to pick up ground in space, no pun intended, what we're really finding is that the type of work that we do, from touching nuclear stockpile management to working with special operations, really our competitors are sort of larger businesses, but we're much smaller and we have a homey feel.
Okay. And in past interviews, you said that it's a profitable company, 8-figure profitable company. Yeah. Okay. Right. Is it ever going to get past the 8-figure? When is that going to happen?
Actually, my hope is 2026.
2026 to get past the 8-figure?
Yeah, we've won a number of large contracts, and I'm really excited to go into 2026 in execution.
Yeah. When you say won a number of large contracts, are you facing any issues because of the DEI, the backlash, and it's almost like you do business with black people, everybody feels like you're some type of way. Are you facing any of that at all?
I like to remind people that at first, I'm a talented, capable person. I happen to be a woman, I happen to be black, and some people think that I'm cute on some days.
Yeah.
And so we're really capability-led. Every single thing that we do and we deliver is because we're competent, we're talented, and we really have not, in my area, experienced as much with some of the concerns about DEI because everything we do is excellent. We're 51% veteran. We're 40% female. We're looking to be 47% female in the future. And we are a mixture. When I look at my executive suite, I have the right people in the right positions to help guide me to do the things that I don't know how to do. And being somebody who did not necessarily come from a defense contracting background, I need to make sure that when I sit around the table, I have diverse perspectives so that I can make sure that we move forward.
Yeah. And you also have another company, LINGO, right? This is a self-home coding kit, building backup sensors for driverless cars, right? Learning coding and engineering concepts. Take me inside of LINGO because you have that distribution. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it on. I was looking for one for my daughter for Christmas.
Yeah,
right?
And you can actually get us on QVC now.
Yeah,
which
QVC
is really
too.
exciting. QVC.
Okay.
Get us on QVC.
QVC. Okay. So take me inside of LINGO. How's that going?
LINGO was a business that was birthed in the pandemic based off of insights that we had gained previously. We found that a lot of students were not excited about engineering, And they thought it was boring. I don't know why. I would go into classrooms and they would basically say, well, aren't you in a lab coat all day? This is definitely not a lab coat. And so what we wanted to do was build hands-on, immersive experiences that align to what the United States has determined to be emerging technology fields. So we have lessons in LINGO that are kind of introducing them to concepts of artificial intelligence, that are introducing them to concepts of precision agriculture, that are introducing them to concepts of space. I am actually teaching the space lessons. So alongside the launch, we came up with 2 lessons. One's called Countdown to Launch, and the other is called Earth Observer. And in Countdown to Launch, they actually build a rocket launch countdown timer to approximate a launch, complete with a board and other kind of signals that maybe things are off nominal. And the idea is to take the technologies that are in some of the fastest growing industries and bring it into high school. Now, I don't know if you found high school to be really exciting, but I wasn't exactly every day like, yes, I want to learn about Mesopotamia and Pangaea. But the students who get these kits, they're so excited that they literally have asked their parents to come in and see what they're working on.
Wow.
We now have 7,700 learners that are on the platform. We're in 17 schools in St. Louis, we're in Inglewood, we're in Colorado, we're in Tampa. And I think this is really going to represent the next wave of learning. I was not as strong academically in the theoretical pieces as I was in the applied pieces. I'm great when I work with my hands, and I think a lot of people are that way.
Right. Listen, we have some young ladies visiting us from the Orlando area, right? Some STEM students. And before we were talking off camera about what they wanted to do, and a couple of them said, hey, I want to own my own business. I want to own my own business. Phenomenal. And I wanted to ask you, right? What is it like being a CEO, right? Running your own company as Aisha Bowe. What is that like for you?
Every day, it's a joy. I'm so excited because I get to work on things that make me excited every single day. And I don't think I could ever go back. I really don't think I could go
To
back.
being a worker?
Nah.
No?
Uh-uh.
Wow.
No.
If everybody wants to be CEOs, though, who's going to be the workers? That's not.
No, I know, but I don't think I could go back.
You don't.
But because the reality of it is that I have built at every stage of my career solutions to challenges that I had earlier. And so if I was to think about going and working at NASA, I really love space and the technology that we were working on, but I may not have wanted to be in that particular job for 40 years.
Yeah.
I get to touch space and technology in STEMBoard. I wanted to be able to go to space at NASA, but I wasn't sure whether or not that path was going to be available to me based off of the technical track that I chose. I got an opportunity to go to space. I got an opportunity to research because I decided to become an engineer who's an entrepreneur. And so being a founder is really a way for me to not only express my dreams, but put in place infrastructure to help other people do the same.
Yeah. Well, there has to be a negative side, though, right? What don't you like about being a CEO? Because there's those sides you wake up and everybody's calling you because you're the decision maker. What is the thing that you don't like about it?
I don't know. Have you ever seen anybody achieve work-life balance?
No.
Yeah, I don't think that's a thing. I think some of the downsides, right, are the hours, the stress, the pressure. I'm really happy that we as a culture now are taking mental health seriously and realizing that self-care is like essential. When I was in the early days, I had the freshman 10, maybe the 15 of being a young corporate owner, of reaching burnout and not kind of thinking that the reward for good work was more work. Not really realizing that I needed to be able to find a way to take a break.
Yeah.
And now I feel like I live a more sustainable life. The schedule's more rigorous, but I'm more aware about pulling back so that I don't hit the wall.
Yeah. Well, listen, you talk about pull back. Let's take a step back, right? You grew up in Michigan, in the Ann Arbor area. What was that like for you?
Growing up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, it's such a wonderful place because you have a lot of academics and the universities there, and it's really rich. But for me, it was also a sign of something that my father was not able to accomplish. And what I mean by that is my father came from the Bahamas in the 80s. He went to Michigan. He eventually became an electrical engineer at 40. And it was always his dream to work for NASA, but he wasn't able to get there. There is no NASA in Michigan, in case you're wondering, right? The closest NASA facility is in Glen. And I was able to carry that torch and go to California. I worked at NASA in the Valley. And so Ann Arbor was what dreams were made of for me because I was able to go from community college to Michigan Aerospace to a master's in space systems at Michigan to working at NASA.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned your dad died, and going back and looking at your history, he seemed like a determined individual, right? I mean, he was driving a cab at first and still ended up, getting his electrical engineering degree. What's the biggest thing that you learned from your dad? Because he saw those calculus books in the trash, picked them up and challenged you and worked with calculus on, while you were at community college, which ultimately led to where you are today. But, him looking down on you right now, what's the biggest thing that you still hold with you that you've learned from him?
To never allow other people to define your success. I remember him going into high school because I had a guidance counselor that told me that I should pursue cosmetology. And, because of that, I never initially applied to university. I didn't think that university was for people like me. I believed what I was being told. And he went to school that day. He was told that he should not come back. He had some words, and I just remember the fight in his eyes and how he was so passionate and how he was so determined that no matter what it was that I wanted to achieve, I could do it. And so now when I go into classrooms and even when I talk to people, I'm always like, start with what's unrealistic. What's realistic is boring. That's something that's been done before. And so I love to be able to be in a position where I'm consistently birthing things that are unrealistic, turning science fiction into science fact.
Yeah. How did you overcome your self-doubt? Because earlier in your life, you talk about so much not being able to, believe that you can do the things that you may be seeing on television, not being able to believe that you can actually be an aerospace engineer. How did you overcome that self-doubt? Because again, we have some young girls here, and as they go through their lives, they may be faced with those self-doubt, routine or those self-doubt stretches that they got to get through. How did you overcome yours?
I mean, it's such a great question because I think how you speak to yourself in your mind matters. And I had the honor of hosting Inc.'s Your Next Move about a year ago. And I traveled around the country and I talked to a bunch of successful entrepreneurs. And there was one thing that they all held in common, and it was that they reinforced their worldview internally, consistently. And I think that for me, that was the change. I decided deliberately to make sure that before I entered anybody else's day, I had mine. And so for 20 minutes in the morning, I would sit down and I would reinforce the perspective and my confidence. And, I didn't wait for other people to validate me or tell me that I was going to be good or tell me I was going to be smart. I told myself that. And that's still what I take into my life these days because the things that I see for the future are not realistic for me. They're the things that people think that I can achieve. And I think that's how you know you have a really good dream or a really good goal. If you tell it to someone and they laugh, go do it.
I love that. I love it. Working at NASA, right? You first started working there as an intern in 2008, right after you get out of community college, transfer, went to University of Michigan, and get your degrees again, aerospace engineer and space systems.
Space system engineering.
Space systems engineering. But then you start working at NASA, right? And in another interview, you said, working at NASA, it's an environment where you never stop learning.
Right.
What's the biggest thing that you learned at NASA?
I think it's actually that. I was so excited when I was working at NASA that I would take these little breaks and I would go building to building and I would just talk to people. How'd you get here? What do you do?
Were they looking at you crazy? Like, why are you talking to me?
At first, I think because we're all kind of introverted people, but then it became really fun because people like to tell you what they do and how they got there. And I learned so much every day, from the wind tunnels to the arc jet to the flight line. And I was absorbing and I was absorbing, and I just enjoyed being in this environment where it was constantly learning and evolving, learning and evolving. And that's really the approach that I've taken to life. I mean, I feel like the greatest thing that I've learned is that I don't know anything at all, and to always be open, to be able to change, to be able to evolve. Far too often as adults, we can become a little bit like, we think we know what we're doing, and it's like, no, just be okay. Sometimes that change, that new direction is really, it's the next big thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I always like to go to LinkedIn and I ask people, hey, I have Aisha Bowe coming up. What would you ask her, right? And so I had a few people submit some questions, but one of them that stood out is, listen, you mentioned it off top, we're not probably where we want to be as a country when it comes to STEM, right? Science, technology, engineering, mathematics. And the question is, what would most help increase the pathways for the next generation to gain access to aerospace and tech? This comes from Jamal Davis via LinkedIn.
Oh, I love the question. I was a really big proponent of bringing people to work. One of the things that I saw transform lives was when I was at NASA, we would bring students in from the high schools, the middle schools, and they could shadow us for the day. And they left with a completely different idea of the field than they had before. And it inspired these students to actually go into the field. There's a story that I love and I'm forever proud to tell. I brought a 13-year-old girl to work who saw me at an Aviation Day Museum event for NASA, right? We'd go into the community and we would speak. She then became a NASA intern. And you asked me, why was I so calm on the day of the launch? That 13-year-old girl turned into an employee of Blue Origin who helped build the rocket engine that I flew on.
Wow.
So I know that bringing students into the field is a game changer. But we also have to really seriously think more about apprenticeship in the US. I think the Swiss have a wonderful model. Not everybody needs a 4-year degree. Community colleges, in my opinion, are a powerhouse. If I can go from Washington to Michigan, that says something. And so if we can really look at more community college investment, more internships, and more apprenticeships for students who are earlier, like high school, even middle schoolers, take them to work. I really think you'll see more people wanting to be in STEM fields.
Yeah, listen, again, we have that community college. I think we have it for the same reason. I had a little bit of bad grades, right? Not too many, but I wasn't focused enough. I was lazy, and when it came time to putting in those colleges, but I'm glad I went to community college because similar to something that you said, you get a chance to see people from all walks of life. You get a chance to see that mother out there, that single mom who has 2 kids who's still doing it. You get a chance to see those parents who are so you get a chance to really experience all people from all walks of life. So I thought that helped me. How did it help you going to community college?
I mean, you nailed it. Being with people from so many different backgrounds really helped me understand the importance of what it was that I was trying to do.
Yeah.
Up until then, education was something that I felt was just forced upon me. I didn't really see why I wanted it and what it was going to bring me and kind of like the long-term impacts of having a good foundation. And by being in community college, I said, not only do I understand what I'm doing, I understand why, and I developed the discipline. And lastly, I realized that if I didn't learn a subject, it wasn't because I didn't know how to learn. It was because I may have been working with somebody that didn't teach me in the way I learned. And that came from community college. I was able to slow down and really find professors who matched my learning style. And when I went to university, it didn't mean that everybody was always teaching me in a way that I learned, but I understood how to teach myself things.
Dig into your portfolio a little bit before I get you out of here. What else are you interested in? You got any crypto, real estate? Are you interested in crypto? You got Bitcoin at all?
No.
You're not interested in crypto? Why not?
No.
Why? What's wrong with crypto?
I mean, for me, I'm more interested in what are we doing with computing in the future, right? Like that type of stuff I'm obsessed with. Energy, power, space.
Yeah.
That's really kind of more of what excites me. I know a lot of folks are excited about crypto, and I'm happy for them. But I'm really like, what are the foundational technologies of the future?
Yeah, you're trying to get to the next planet. That takes thousands of years to do that, though.
Well, but if you look at the last 50 years of space, I mean, it's been incredible what we've done in the last 50 years versus many other industries. I mean, think about it. There are more billionaires walking around today than in the last 100 years. And why? Because of the tech companies. Because we are constantly building things faster and more wilder than before.
And get you out of here on a few things, some fun stuff, right? Rapid stuff. Have you ever made $1 million?
Yes.
You have. Great. You
Yes.
heard that? She's a millionaire. How did you spend $1 million?
The first time?
Yeah. The first time? There's multiple times you spent $1 million?
Yes.
Oh, man. Well, listen, I've never spent $1 million, so I don't know.
Listen, we make multiple millions every year,
Okay,
right?
that's
and
wrong. Yeah.
I share this because you will lose a lot of money the first time that you make it, just learning how to keep it. And so I remember the days when all I wanted to do was make $1 million, and then that became 3, and then that became 7, and so on and so forth. And I think you really have to put in place infrastructure, right? Banks, partners, institutions. I'm very, very lucky to have great bankers, great accountants, and more importantly, better business owner friends, like people who have already been where I am, that can say to me, hey, do this, don't do that.
Yeah. So you spent it on a car, a house? How did you spend $1 million?
I would say the thing that I did that was less smart was on unnecessary travel. Like you don't need to go to all those conferences, right? It's not necessary to be everywhere. You really need to figure out what places are gonna be most beneficial to your business and determine whether or not you have to go at all.
Yeah, think one of those places you didn't cut out is Paris, though. I mean, that's still part of the trips that you take, right?
Listen, but that's not a business expense.
Oh, of course, no.
That's personal.
Personal, right?
But
yeah.
but real estate, my condo in DC, that was a great investment.
Yeah.
It appreciated 16% in the first year. I would do that again, and I also believe in building a real estate portfolio. So those types of investments, great. But from a business perspective, I really like for people to look at, you don't always have to show up, right? You should look at your time as valuable, and sometimes it's good to be a little scarce.
Yeah, I love it. When you talk about AI, right? AI is like the buzzword still. What's the top AI app on your phone right now? What do you use the most?
I mean, I feel like this is probably a given, but I'm just gonna be honest. It's definitely ChatGPT.
Yeah.
It's ChatGPT.
Why do you like that the most? I love Gemini and also Google Notebook. That's my favorite. Why do you like ChatGPT the most?
I think it's probably the tool that I started using the most frequently. I'm just now trying to kind of develop my relationship with Gemini, but I feel like Chat and I, we know each other.
Yeah.
To the point where it's like all the answers and all the responses I'm getting back are like really, really good right now.
That's your companion. So you chat GPT and the wine and emails, the fireplace going, and you're talking to Chat GPT, answering emails.
But it makes you feel like you can take over the world.
Yeah, yeah, it does. I mean, it does things really, really fast.
So you add in Canva, get the presentations out,
absolutely. Yeah.
works.
Well, you mentioned the world, right? Look around the world right now. Where does Aisha Bowe put her money and invest in it right now outside of this country?
The continent. The continent.
Africa?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, there are so many countries in Africa that I think are really interesting investments.
Yeah.
And when you think about space, a lot of the assets that are going up in the next 5 to 10 years are for Africa, right? I'm really excited about the potential opportunity to have an African space agency, to have an African launch pad, but also the Caribbean. I think a lot of things that are happening in the Caribbean now are also very interesting.
3 books that you would recommend that inspire you to, or motivate you to do your best?
This is hard because I spend most of my time reading contracts. And I'll be the first to admit that I would like to do more recreational reading than I have. I always recommend, and I guess this is for the youth of the audience today, I love a good Dale Carnegie book.
Okay.
Right? How to Win Friends and Influence People. When I got it, my first year of work at NASA, basically dog-eared it. I read it over and over again. I also like a book by Bill Bryson, and it's called like A Small History of like Everything. And it's a really kind of funny take on all of these historical events in the world, right? The discovery of this, the discovery of that. And what I like about it is it kind of reminds you that science and history can be changed. I think we think of a lot of things as fixed. They're only fixed until you discover the new thing.
That's right.
And then I would say Michelle Obama.
Michelle Obama's book.
Yeah. I mean, that's just, I think that's a classic. I think that there's so much that we can all take from her, and she's one of my favorite public speakers.
Yeah, love it. Get your eye on this. My favorite book is Good to Great by Jim Collins. Love that business book. What's the difference between a good aerospace engineer and a great one?
I sometimes think that good is the enemy of great, right? I think being a great aero engineer is having encountered difficulty. I had a conversation with my colleagues about the 4.0.
Yeah.
And while if you've been able to achieve that, I'm really excited for you, but really we live life in like 3.5, right? Oftentimes you need to be able to come back from what you might perceive as a failure. And most of the things in my life that have happened that I thought were failures were actually things that were meant to better inform me. And so I really think it's about resiliency and understanding how to look for the, like how to make things that could set you back help better you.
That's right. Yeah. Well, something that you said, back in 2023 is failure is success in progress. Right. Early in my career, I looked at it as terminal. If something didn't go the way I wanted, I was sad. I couldn't really handle the feeling of failure. But it sounds like you now accept failure as being a part of the progress.
I do. I actually wanted to turn it into a mug or a t-shirt or something.
You see, I wrote it. Yeah.
My failures and success and progress. I mean, if I was to look at the founding of STEMBoard, for example, when I went out to start that business, I thought the way to become successful was to go out to the valley to raise money. And I'm not sure that anybody really enjoys the process. There probably are some people. I'm happy for you. But I went out there and I heard a lot of no's. And because I heard a lot of no's, I'm now running a company that I own 100% of 13 years later because I found a sustainable model. if someone had said yes to me, I wouldn't have done it that way. And so I'm really grateful for that no. And so my approach to no is it's maybe. Try not to assign a judgment to the no. Realize that it's just a data point to inform your path.
I love it. Listen, great way to get out of here, talking data points, right, with an aerospace engineer. And if you do decide to do the mugs, let me know. I'm being in on that because I think we could make $1 million. I really do. Aisha Bowe here at the Nasdaq MarketSite. Thank you so much. Please come back. We got to check up on STEMBoard and LINGO and all those great things and check in on your next million. And we want to break the news when you become a billionaire. Right?
I look forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I do too. That'd be a great story for me. Aisha Bowe here at the Nasdaq MarketSite. Thank you so much for watching and thank you for listening.